Welcome everyone to a Delco Nerd Network Rewind Review, where we sit down and talk about some of our favorite film franchises of the past. On this season, we're talking about some of our favorite video game movies from throughout the years. Of course, joining me as always, Mr. Anthony the Gooch Ragucci.
Loktar Ogar trio. Do you know what that means?
I don't. Is that Orc dialect?
It is Orc dialect. It means victory or death in Orcish.
Well, huzzah
and
to
it
that.
is said probably in the first 10 minutes of the movie, once Durtan walks out of the tent, you hear an Orc go, Loktar Ogar.
I have a question.
And it's a very common saying in World of Warcraft.
Okay, I'm interested because I actually have a question relating to the dialect, but we'll get into that once we get into it here.
Okay.
But yeah, we're talking about some video game movies. We've went through a few so far. Last we did was Doom, right?
Yeah.
And then we're continuing on. Next up will be Assassin's Creed. But today we are talking about Warcraft, initially released June 10th of 2016 with a production budget of $160 million. Pretty good.
It's not that bad.
I really was expecting more, to be honest.
I mean, there's a lot of CGI and a lot of practical.
No,
in this
for
movie.
sure.
And I'm interested to discuss because I don't think we've had a movie with quite the level of practical and CGI.
It's true. I was noticing that throughout, but I'm excited to talk about that. So, with an opening domestic weekend of 24.1 million, not terribly amazing, sadly.
No.
And a total box office of 438.8 million. We'll talk about where most of that comes from a little later in the podcast. Mm-hmm. Directed by Duncan Jones, written and...
Stop. Yeah. Do you know who Duncan Jones is?
I do. He's in the fun facts. Do you want to get into it? Yeah, we have... Yeah, I know who he is. Do we want to give it away right now?
Yeah, I might as well.
All right, so Duncan Jones is, of course, the son of David Bowie.
Yeah, and he doesn't have a lot of, like, movies under his belt.
Not a ton.
So
I'm not
really sure
yeah.
why he was picked for this movie. Fun fact, he was also one of the people lined up to direct Batman v Superman and Man of Steel.
Really?
Yes. Before they settled on Snyder, it was like Matt Reeves and Duncan Jones were like two of the people
really?
like lined up for Man of Steel and who would eventually also do BVS.
Yeah. Matt Reeves definitely makes sense to me. I guess Duncan Jones. Yeah, I did look up his filmography a little bit before we started.
I'm probably gonna be full of like off the cuff.
No, this is what I want. This is what we're here for.
Yeah, since I know so much about the series, but that I just tangentially know from doing like my BVS video essay
right.
that like they were all running up.
That's interesting. Yeah, I had no idea. So with a quick IMDb description for you all. As an orc horde invades the planet Azeroth using a magic portal, a few human heroes and dissenting orcs must attempt to stop the true evil behind this war.
That's apt.
It's accurate.
Yeah,
it's for sure.
That's accurate.
Yeah.
That is exactly the plot.
Absolutely. But speaking of the plot, Gooch, let's just get into it. Let's talk about the movie. What did you think? I know you've seen this before. I have not.
Yeah,
so
I saw this opening
one.
weekend. So I've only seen this one other time. This is the second time I've seen it. Yeah, I like this movie. I recognize it's probably not everyone's bag, and I think it is pretty, like, unanimously panned as, like, a pretty crappy movie.
I will say, when I was looking up reviews on this, you know, as far as the tomatometer, if you will, goes for anyone, it does have a positive audience score. I think it's about 76.
It has like a 2.5 on Letterboxd.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah, I think it's at a 76 on the
okay.
side.
I think that's
Tomatometer.
a fair score.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I am a ex World of Warcraft player. I kind of grew up playing the series. And I still kind of keep up with it a little bit. Maybe not as much as the lore as I used to, but it's still a game that interests me, and I grew up playing, so it's such an integral part of my like gaming history. And yeah, and I still like watch streams of the game. I still watch content on the game. I'm always wanting to jump back into World of Warcraft. But like it's just kind of like this weird blood pact I made with myself long ago that I've like really never gone back except for like once during COVID.
Yeah.
With like classic WoW too, especially as like that original experience, because retail WoW is nothing like it was when I played. But you know, this isn't World of Warcraft. I mean, it is, but it's based on Warcraft, the strategy game, one of Blizzard's first games. I mean, there's StarCraft, Warcraft, Diablo. There's a few earlier titles, but like they're RTS games.
Right.
So, and I have played Warcraft 3, but I've never played the original Warcraft. It was actually remastered recently.
Oh.
But going back, yeah, I like this movie. I think there is a lot to like. I think there is a lot to critique. I don't think it does everything well. I think the characters are I think the weakest part.
Completely
besides Duratan, who I don't think you see enough of, but his plot is the best.
Absolutely. I completely agree.
All the human characters, I don't like Anduin Lothar. I don't really like Khadgar. Medivh is kind of like an anti-hero in Warcraft to begin with, and he is that in this. But
he kind of came off just as the bad guy to me. Like, well, a good guy turned bad guy, obviously.
He is a good guy turned bad guy.
Yeah.
And in Warcraft, there's no way we're going to be able to talk about all the differences between the Warcraft universe and this movie. This movie is its own thing.
For sure.
And it does a lot of things differently. There are a lot of big plot beats that are different. Like Garona is actually sent by Gul'dan to infiltrate the Human Alliance, not... She just switches to the human side, even though she eventually kind of becomes a good character.
Interesting.
Later in the series, and she does kill Lane Rin, like, cold blood, like, she just fucking kills him. And another example, they don't fight, like, near the Dark Portal. They fight in Stormwind. So it's, Stormwind gets destroyed by the first
I see what you're
Orcish
saying.
Horde invasion.
Right.
So there's a lot of differences and stuff, and I'll probably call them out as I can, but, we'd be here all fucking day.
Absolutely.
There are a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, what did you think?
So I will
Especially
admit,
not being a Warcraft fan, really knowing
I
nothing
know next
about
to
this
nothing
universe.
about this universe. I know, there's orcs and elves and all the other magical stuff that normally exists in some high fantasy stuff. I will admit, and I said something in the group chat or in the Discord, at first it was taking me a moment to settle into the CG. I think when it got, and once I finally did though, I actually ended up enjoying it. I think all the orcs especially are very well done.
Oh, they look so
They're so
good.
like individual, which I appreciate. Everyone has
Yeah.
all their tusks and their different, piercings and their hairstyles and all that. So they were very notable.
And the
I appreciated
size. Like, think about, I was thinking about Lord. I think that it's fantasy. It's easy to compare it to Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
But, I was comparing it, like, the Uruk-hai and the orcs are the same size, if not a tiny bit bigger than the humans. In that, and this, it's like the orcs just feel like
They're like Hulks.
They feel like truly like different creatures, like different
Absolutely.
ilk
Of a different world, as they
I mean,
obviously
they are. They
exactly.
are.
So
I don't think that's apparent, and I think a lot of people forget that with WoW. The orcs are not from Azeroth. They are an alien invader.
And I guess that makes sense. I mean, it is funny. Everything you can trace everything back to Tolkien, and like the way that starts. It's like I think in like Lord of the Rings, it's orcs are elves that are like manipulated and turned bad. Whereas like the idea that they're just in totally different separate things. So I like that a lot. But yeah, I think the orc side of the confrontation was my favorite part.
Mm-hmm.
I will echo you on the characters. I just think a lot of them were terribly miscast, especially the champion, who was
Anduin.
obvious.
Lothar.
I knew he was bad, Gooch, from the moment I laid eyes on him.
Yeah, he's not particularly strong. I think Khadgar is much better. And
Yeah.
I don't think Khadgar is that good to begin with.
Is Khadgar the other one? The other mage. So
Yeah.
those two I felt were two major miscasts for me. I actually Khadgar grew on me a little bit throughout the movie, and I felt like he kind of earned his stay throughout. I appreciated that we were in like a truly high fantasy world. I feel like we rarely see that.
Dude, we don't have a lot of fantasy.
Definitely, just in general. I mean, I guess we've had like Game of Thrones and like certain mainstays for sure, but
Game of
it's not.
Thrones is like,
I mean, that's very
It's
low
so-
fantasy, right? Or what?
I'm curious what you would actually call it, because it's like it's dark fantasy.
Yeah, that's
but like
the word,
it's
yeah.
not Witcher.
Right.
Witcher is a much different like Game of Thrones is, besides the dragons
Yeah.
and the creatures and the light magic, almost very similar to some like medieval world.
Well, yeah.
It's not that magical.
Well, and I would almost compare it to the idea of like the later eras in Tolkien's world, because I think the idea is the first era is like high magic, everyone's shooting magic everywhere, and it's very vital and throughout the land.
Mm-hmm.
And by the time you get to after Sauron's gone, magic is kind of what it is today, where like no one like it's like, is it even real, or is it
like a forgotten
Yeah,
art,
exactly. So I feel like you're kind of more towards the beginning of that era when it gets to Warcraft. Everyone's shooting magic, elves have glowing eyes. I did think some of the makeup looked super rubbery, but
We'll talk about the other races.
yeah,
in a minute,
you don't
'cause
get to see a ton of them.
There's a lot of restraint shown here. I think you could have easily started this movie with an explainer like exposition so easily, dude. I could have wrote it myself.
Agree with that.
But instead they decide to go right into it, and I think the first 40 minutes to an hour is too quick.
It is, and there's a lot going on. Like I just felt like I was getting a lot
up in the second half, but there is a lot going on.
I was getting a lot of names. I was getting a lot of locations. We're here. We're there. We're going here. And I was like, okay, I can pick up and I'm getting it, but like it's taking me a moment, and I wasn't really getting everyone's name. I did like the king a lot. Dominic, what's his name again? Dominic Cooper. He's fantastic.
Lane Wren,
Tony Stark's father, of course. I think he was great. But yeah, I just think overall the human side was the side I really didn't care that much about. Like, what's his name and his son dying?
Yeah,
I didn't really feel much by that time. Yeah.
Doesn't have a son in Warcraft.
Yeah,
that's totally fabricated.
And then even Lothar himself, I felt like he was there was one really good scene with him when he's finally confronting the champion, where I felt like he was really kind of giving it. But throughout the rest of the movie, it felt like he was just kind of like saying his lines. I don't know.
Wait, who are you calling the champion? Anduin Lothar?
No, Min, the one who's the bad wizard.
Guardian.
Yeah, sorry, the Guardian. I thought he says champion at some point.
No. Okay. Sorry. I thought when you said
good.
champion, I thought you meant Anduin Lothar because he's like the hero. Okay.
Yeah, no, sorry. When he's confronting the Guardian, I thought that moment was good. But yeah, I don't know. They just felt very kind of one-notey to me, and I kind of wanted to get back to the orcs. I do think what's the main orc's name again?
Durotan.
Durotan was fantastic, and I agree with you. I wish we saw a bit more of them.
Like all those orcs are like big characters within the Warcraft universe. Between Ogren Doomhammer, he has the Doomhammer, the guy with the big hammer. There's Gul'dan, there's Kargath Bladefist, there's Blackhand. Like, there are so many orcs who have a lot more story that is not necessarily told here, but like any Warcraft fan is like, holy shit, it's Blackhand. And you don't really get a lot of Blackhand. Like, he just gets, there are some orcs who are reserved from like drinking the Fel or it's kind of hard to. There's a difference between the Fel in Warcraft and in this movie, or in the game and the movie. In this, it's like, I guess Gul'dan is like channeling the Fel magic into people.
I see,
and it makes everyone turns the orcs green who are not originally green.
Right, that was a point.
Like orange tan colored.
Yeah. More regular like skin tone.
Yeah, and they become green, and it kind of enrages them. It makes them more angry. So that's why like Durotan and Ogrim seem a bit chiller,
and a bit
they are
more thoughtful. Yeah.
Yeah.
One scene I did like with what was the mage, the bad mage for the orcs.
Gul'dan. Daniel Wu, by the way.
Oh, really? I did see you say that. I meant to respond.
Crazy.
That is actually crazy.
That's range, dude. Holy shit.
I did like how he was hitting that one human like a vape as he was talking to the other gentleman, and it was a kind of cool effect. Like, he was like talking to the other orc, and he's just like every few seconds he's like pulling aura out of the one dude.
Yeah, like
it's a cool effect. Yeah, I like that a lot.
So in the game, the Fel magic comes from consuming the blood of Manaroth. Manaroth is a Fel demon. So there's a big bad behind Gul'dan. His name is Sargeras and Kil'jaeden. They are aliens from another planet who are trying to take over Azeroth, and they're using Gul'dan to do it.
I see.
And I think you could have easily brought that up in the beginning in exposition, planted those seeds, and then sequel baited us at the end. But for some reason, they didn't do that.
No. Yeah.
So I think they're like, I was kind of interested because you think like anything else, like they set up that seed, like sort of like the last Venom.
Absolutely. Yeah. No. Like and speaking to that, honestly, I was surprised how many main characters died. Like how Durotan and even like his wife and the
Draka.
King, and I was like, there's some people
they
dying
all
and having stakes
in the game.
Yeah, so, I thought it was very well, and that moment where Durotan's facing him and like they have
Makara.
Yeah,
do you understand what? Makara
it's like a duel to the death.
Yes,
like
it's exactly what it is. Yeah.
I didn't though get like the orcs seemed a little wishy-washy on that because they were like we're not gonna follow you, and then he like sucks the souls out of those three, and then everyone's like, oh, I guess we're gonna follow you. It's like, fucking gang up on him, take him out. What are we doing here? Why is he still in charge? That was the only thing that didn't quite make sense to me by the end. But I will give it to this movie for how much is going on, for how many names are being introduced in places and things and concepts. It was relatively easy to keep track of everything, or at least the main plot line with like Durotan and the Horde invading and them needing to stop them and close the portal. I was like, okay, I can comprehend that, even if I might not know every single person's name here. Yeah. I did think the action was fantastic. I thought, even in some of the scenes when the humans are interacting with the orcs, that's where you can get very hairy, and it was done very well. I like how the humans do have to be like kind of quick and agile, and that's the way that they counteract.
There
the
isn't
orcs.
a lot of like gratuitous violence. Like there's a lot of I forget like where his son dies. Like they cut away and
Right,
he's dead.
yeah,
like they don't show it, which is fine. You know, I don't think that you know I don't think Warcraft is known for its violence,
Right.
per se, like as a series, but. You know,
It's not like a Fallout or anything like that.
Yeah, I just thought it was kind of goofy when they cut away. I'm like, yeah, we could have.
It was
that.
a weird. I
There's
feel
not
like
a
they
lot of-
wanted to show it, and they like almost had to cut there.
Yeah, maybe.
But,
Is it? I guess it's probably PG-13. It's
It
definitely
is.
not R.
Yeah. But yeah, I gotta give it to him. There's a lot going on. I felt like the humans definitely got more of their due. I felt like the orcs, like you said, I would have liked more time with Duratan for sure, and kind of what's going on there. I did not expect for his buddy to turn on him in the gorge like that.
Ogrim, yeah.
Yeah, so I thought that was good.
No, he lives, right?
I think he does.
Yeah, so he
Because he's like, you'll follow this monster, and then they're like, yep.
yeah, so he lives up until like the time where World of Warcraft Warcraft 3 begins because so that baby what did you think about the baby plotline?
It was obvious by the end. By the end, I knew what it was for. It was a setup. He's going to be an important character in the next movie.
Yes, he's a very important character in World of Warcraft and Warcraft 3. Yeah.
I didn't expect his parents to die, and I didn't expect for him to be like kind of put out on his own. That was actually very interesting to me. So I just assumed that he was an important character.
So his orcish name is Goel, but his name is Thrall. So Thrall is the leader of the Horde in Warcraft 3. I don't think in Warcraft 2, but in Warcraft 3 and then World of Warcraft for a while. He's a shaman. And yeah, he is like one of the most well-known World of Warcraft characters. And so what happens with him is essentially like he's found by humans. He's like taken into an internment camp. Orcs start getting put in internment camps after the first war because they're left on Azeroth. And they don't really, for a while, they're just kind of being nomadic. They don't settle anywhere. They're getting captured. And like the Horde is not really super strong after the first and second war.
Right.
And Warcraft 3 is about Thrall essentially like giving the Horde a home and like finding them a home, which is on another continent on Azeroth.
I see.
This movie takes place within the Eastern Kingdoms, which is where most of the Alliance races are. We have dwarves. There are gnomes who are not depicted in this movie. They're right now technically high elves, but they become blood elves. They essentially get genocided, and they essentially just rename themselves. They're
kind of like the dark elves at that point. Like they go from
night elves are.
Oh, there are okay.
Yeah, there are dark elves in terms of appearance.
Right. Not like an equivalent kind of.
Yeah. So there's night elves and high elves.
I see.
And high elves are the ones you see at the table. So at this point in time, they're a part of the Alliance. They will eventually join the Horde.
I see. Once they turn to blood elves.
Yeah.
Right.
So essentially, a big bad like just kills them all and turns them into undead and like pretty much slaughters their entire race.
Falmer. No, it is like all the. I mean, I know it's not the exact same. I know
the
that's
reason they
the
call
dwarves.
themselves blood elves is because they like crave magic, and that's kind of like also their downfall is like they just crave magic and like being around it, and they become like really dependent on it. There are actually remember how Gul'dan, like first scene in the movie, he's like powering the dark portal with that race.
Yeah,
they're called Draenei.
Yep.
Yeah. So, fun fact: Grona is not half orc, half human. She's half orc, half Draenei.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, they don't say that, but like she's clearly a half breed.
Yeah. Well, they'd say she's a half breed in the movie, but like I assumed she was a half breed.
She's a half
human.
Draenei.
And yeah,
because they remember this is the first time they're going and encountering humans.
Okay,
so
I thought that they said in the movie that they like captured some human. Okay, that makes more sense.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to say like what exactly the Horde has been up to. If it seems like because like the Alliance hasn't encountered them before.
Right.
You know, they don't know what they are. They think they're giants. Like they have no idea who these things are. So yeah, like in the lore they thought she was half human, but later you find out that she is half Draenei, half orc.
Gotcha. Okay.
And yeah, so the Draenei were running from the big bad that I was talking about earlier, Kil'jaeden and Sargeras. They were running from them. Their ship lands on Outland, which is the planet that the orcs are from, and essentially like they're cohabitating, and then Gul'dan gets in contact with Sargeras. He turns into a warlock, which is where the fell magic comes from.
Gotcha.
And essentially fucks up the entire planet.
I see.
In the process. So that's why they're running, because like Gul'dan, by making this pact with the big bad, it's hard to say if it's actually, this is canon in the Warcraft movie, but this is out in the game. He inadvertently like begins to kill the planet.
I see.
The orcs are very shamanistic. They're not mages. They're not warlocks. Like they're shamans.
Yeah, they have a shaman that leads their tribe. Or yeah. Interesting.
So like that's what Thrall becomes. But yeah, so like they destroy. I'm trying to remember what Draenor. That's the planet. So Outland is like a nickname for it. But
okay,
it gets like all fucked up, like the whole thing.
So they're going from a planet to another planet, not a universe to another universe.
Correct. It's a planet.
All right, gotcha. All right. That, I assumed it was like it's a different reality. Like they were
there
going
are a lot of like. It's funny because they never really, they're not aliens. They never really.
Well, they are to that.
They
yeah,
are, but they don't never like use that term.
I didn't realize
that's like a sci-fi term.
Right, but I mean, it is funny. I didn't realize how, like, even with Baldur's Gate, which makes sense, like how there's a bit of like spacefaring in it, and a bit of sci-fi fantasy,
it's
almost
like with the Gith,
and the
Gith
the Githyanki and all that stuff, and like I don't know, it's interesting when you bring in aliens in fantasy and like people are exploring the galaxy in a fantasy setting. I don't know, that's different for sure. Yeah, dude, I did enjoy this. Again, at the beginning, I gotta say, Gooch, I was like, oh, I don't know if I'm gonna like this.
So let's talk about the CGI and the practical.
Yeah.
So it seemed, one thing I detected this time watching, I was like, it's very enclosed.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of Lord of the Rings kind of shots.
Yeah, like open. Yeah.
It's clearly filmed on a set. They clearly made a lot of this stuff.
Yeah.
Which is good and bad, but like you can tell, like even the battle scenes are very enclosed. They feel like they're filmed in a big warehouse.
Totally.
Which they are.
Yeah.
I don't think the volume exists at this point, so that technology is not a thing.
It's all green screen and stuff still. Probably at this
it's
point.
like they built, like for the forest scene, they built the trees, they built the path, but like the background is
all CG. Yeah. I did notice. I appreciated the physical sets when I saw them. It definitely felt like very empty, voidish when they were in certain scenes, especially at the beginning when you first see the half-breed. What's her name again? I'm sorry. Garona. And she's like standing in with all the orcs. Like she looks very out of place just because she's in a totally CGI place.
From the watching behind the scenes about her, she is like, they like changed her skin in post.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah. She's like on the poster, she's like normal skinned. And like,
on the posters?
On the poster and the behind the scenes. Like she's just normal.
Why? I mean, the behind the scenes makes sense because like, all right, we're just going to CG her green.
At least the one poster I was looking
That's so wild. That's so stupid. I think I did see some behind the scenes stuff of her like just looking normal. Her tusks looked, her whole look. I
think
guess
she looks fine. That's kind of how she looks.
It's just what it is. Yeah, it just looks kind of odd with the tusks, but that's just because we're not.
She just doesn't look like full orcish female.
Yeah, they should have done
like
that.
Draka. I think I know there are some like, cannon fodder ones, but like
I think
Draka's
they missed a trick there. Make her kind of ugly and orcish. She's too beautiful.
Yeah, she's hot.
Make her more orcish.
Yeah. So in the games, Medivh has like a thing with her. Not with Anduin Lothar. So that's the difference there.
I see.
Yeah.
By the way, she just gets... It's just the orc thing where, like, you're in the middle of a battle, you're surrounded, and we're going to kill you. But if you kill the commander, get, like, the commander on the other side, you're good. We're all... That part felt so odd to me. She's, like, fighting alongside them this whole time, and then all of a sudden she just kills them and they accept her.
I mean, I think it's pretty clear that, like, she's chained up. So, like, the orcs themselves are, like, mistreating her. So I guess they kind of detect that, like, something's... She's not a normal soldier.
I don't know, but she's like, they gave her a weapon. She's in armor. She's clearly fighing with the humans. And then she just kind of...
maybe Gul'dan was like, oh, yeah.
She made
she infiltrated. Like, that's what she is in the game.
Yeah,
so,
I like... Guess that makes... And then she's like... crying. I'm like, I don't know. That scene just felt odd to me. But I don't know, Gooch. Anything else specific on the review side?
I didn't love the way magic was depicted. I don't really think it's true to what magic is in World of Warcraft, which is like very elemental based.
Sure.
I mean, there are like, I just was like, well, like
you get like the one polymorph,
why are we
right?
like the polymorph is like a big Easter egg where he turns him into a sheep. Like I thought that was funny and good. But like, yeah, like this energy of being like pushed into things. I'm like,
A lot of throwing people.
yeah, I'm just like,
people.
I don't like. That's really not how like mages, which Kagar's a mage and Medivh is a mage. Like that's not really like a mage.
You want to see more, like you see,
Thing
I'm sure you
in
can
the
probably see
games.
some of that, maybe. But
Like a
even-
little bit?
yeah.
Like,
But like you want to see more variety.
It's more like fire and ice and lightning.
It reminds
for
me of
mages.
like, no, that makes sense. That always brings me back to like the first Doctor Strange, where it's mostly firecracker kung fu, and there's not a lot of like different actual magic that he's doing. I'd like to see more like variety with that and stuff like that, even in Lord of the Rings. But I know that's more of the specific idea with Gandalf.
So we were talking about the other races. I think it is strange of the inclusion of the dwarf scene in Ironforge looks awesome, by the way, which is the dwarven capital.
Yeah, at the beginning.
But it's like, here's the gun, see ya. Like that's all we're here for, to
true.
introduce the gun, which all the soldiers have at the end. Felt a little odd. There are guns in the Warcraft universe, so that's not weird. But it's just like the movie seems so not about them. And honestly, the dwarves are not really involved in the first Orcish horde invasion. Like they're probably involved just as much as we saw them in the movie, but it felt like the inclusion of that scene where like Anduin is like getting the gun from the dwarf, like it just seemed like kind of odd.
They needed it to get him that gun.
Like,
Yeah.
like, or they could have like they're all at the meeting table.
They felt like
what
they
if
needed
what
it,
if
yeah.
King Rin was like, hey, like,
By the way-
dwarves, how can you help us? And they were like, we'll give you
can-
we'll give you our new ammunition,
Our new boomsticks, like whatever, no.
yeah, you know, whatever.
They are very classic dwarf, which I can appreciate. Very stocky, huge faces.
Yeah.
Big. That scene did feel. It looked good, but again, that's the one where I felt like I was in an open void a little bit. Like it's just such an extension of like a CGI set, but it still did look great.
Yeah. There's some shots of Stormwind that are like right out of the game, minus a few things because we're in the past, and it looks good. Like any Warcraft fan is going to see that, like the Stormwind when they're running out, it's like that's Stormwind, baby,
Right.
and that looks really fucking cool. Like there are some of those fan servicey moments, like when they're running to go to Medivh and Deadwind Pass and Karazhan, there's like a Murloc, there's a little like,
Right.
I don't even remember that, but like that's a Murloc is a creature from the game. Deadwind Pass, where Karazhan becomes very like decrepit and old. Like Medivh, kind of like, again, he's like good but bad.
I did like that moment where he was like, "It's the loneliness that gets us," like or something like that. Like he's talking about, just like that's what
he is kind of like the sorcerer supreme of the Warcraft universe.
That
And
makes
he
sense.
has like a lineage that like is the reason he is super powerful. And
Who was Cruella DeVille in the box?
oh yeah, Why?
No, who? Because is that like I know like is that his mom or something or like what?
So it's funny. In the game, his mom
That's Glenn Close, by the way. That's what I'm saying.
is it Glenn Close?
Yeah.
Oh my god, I didn't even realize that.
Mm-hmm.
No, she's I forget her name.
Is she like an old god of some kind or something like that?
She's like one of the. She's like the first guardian.
Oh, okay.
But Medivh's mom, what the fuck's her name? Anduin,
I was just curious,
not
'cause
Anduin. Medivh's mom is like the former guardian,
got it. Okay.
but they don't talk about her.
Got it. Yeah, I was just curious because that whole scene was interesting. That was where the other mage, Caligar, right, gets like the information of, yeah, he's fucked. Like you need to get back there right now.
Adwin is Medivh's mom and is the guardian before him, but she's not depicted in the movie. She's in the
I see. Interesting. Yeah.
I'm trying to think. I think that's kind of.
I got to give us credit. I feel like I know we're gonna get out of this and be like, oh, we forgot to talk about this. I'm sure, but for all that's going on in this movie, I feel like we actually kind of hit most of it.
Yeah, I mean, like the movie, like it's action based. There's not a
For sure.
There's drama, but like I'm trying to think.
It's
we
just-
we
that's
talked about
unfortunately
Durtan
where-
and Draka
yeah.
dying. Like, did you have anything to say? Like, Draka like has that one scene where she like runs away.
She's like, remember, yeah.
right, and it's like very Moses-esque.
For
where she, like,
sure.
pushes him down the thing.
That's again. I just was not expecting them to die, and I appreciated that they did. It felt like there was actually some stakes in this movie.
Right, and the movie ends with like
Yeah,
I
I thought that was funny. Yeah,
which is like, I think like a very what's the word?
it feels like
Restrained way to be like, we could do a sequel. I'm surprised they haven't done a sequel.
we'll get into why.
Okay.
Yeah.
So did you recently see this? Maybe in your fun facts, very recent. Bobby Kotick was on a podcast or some sort of interview, You may have seen some clips.
I think I know there was
and he was talking about the Warcraft movie, and he didn't like it, and he didn't want it to be made, but like. And I'm like, it made them a lot of money, but I'm surprised Blizzard hasn't done more.
Well, I don't think Warcraft the movie didn't make them a lot of money. I think that's also part of it. Like, and compared to the budget, which we'll get into.
Okay.
And it's not just the budget itself, but also marketing and all that stuff like we talked about. But
really quickly before we kind of exit and go into the fun facts, Warcraft 3 is before World of Warcraft, the biggest Warcraft game and the one people know. It's because Arthas Menethil, his story, I think he's one of the best villains in video games. He becomes the Lich King. You may know.
I know that name.
Yeah. There was a lot of fan casting of Henry Cavill as Arthas becoming the Lich King. If they made another Warcraft movie, I think you should just... Warcraft 2 isn't very well known, and same with 1. So I'm kind of surprised they decided to adapt the first Warcraft movie, which... again, I like, we're doing a movie that actually adapts a game in its entirety.
Like a story,
in the
for
story.
Yeah.
One that a lot of people don't know, but a story of a game nonetheless.
Absolutely.
I would love to see Warcraft 3, because I think a lot of people, like the Lich King and Arthas, get people going. Warcraft fans, that's what they want.
That's their tea. Yeah.
I would love to see them do an adaptation of that storyline of the Lich King's rise, or the Arthas's rise and fall into the Lich King. That would be very cool. But
you could almost do these as anthology films, like just different things, different stories within the Warcraft universe. I think that's totally reasonable.
Yeah.
And that sounds cool to me. I mean, and if you hang that all around Henry Cavill, you could do that, I think.
Yeah, but it's weird. I'm like, Diablo, you could probably do a movie there, like some like R-rated thing. Diablo's much more violent. And StarCraft, like, I am kind of surprised this ended up being a one-off, because I think it was a really big deal for Blizzard to be doing this.
No, I think so too. Ready for some fun facts, Gooch?
I am.
Let's do it. So, the international box office accounts for most of this film's success. $391.5 million of the total $438 million came from the Chinese box office. So I think that means like 40 or 30 million came from domestically, like US.
That's crazy.
So
that's not a lot.
It did not do well here, unfortunately. So as we mentioned earlier, this was directed by Duncan Jones, son of David Bowie. And this was not the first attempt by Blizzard to produce a Warcraft movie. They had spun one up back in 2006, but they canceled it because they felt it was too similar to Lord of the Rings at the time.
Yeah,
which, by the way...
I remember that actually very well. This was like the height of WoW. Wrath of the Lich King was just coming out, the Lich King expansion. Like, there was a lot of talk from Blizzard about a Warcraft movie. And it's kind of like the Gears movie, because it's been around just as long. Like, it was just like something that was talked about, and like no news of it ever came out.
Right, yeah. So they just felt like it was too similar to Lord of the Rings, which I kind of disagree. Like, again, I think Lord of the Rings is very much more dark fantasy. There's not as much magic going on. Sure, Gandalf's like fighting the Balrog and throwing some people around, but
I think it's just very clear that fantasy is hard to do differently in terms of movies, because again, we don't have a lot of fantasy movies.
It does, but I do think this could have ate
like,
some success off it, though. Like, I think at the time, like, fantasy was big, everyone was seeing Lord of the Rings. Like, I think if this same movie came out, which I don't think it could have, like, technologically maybe at the time, I don't know, man. I think it might have done very well. I think the appetite was there, but we'll never know, I guess, unfortunately. So this movie, of course, heavily draws from, it draws from the first game, obviously, but it also draws from two lore books specifically, The Rise of Horde and The Last Guardian. Rise of Horde, I guess, talks about, the Horde invasion, whereas The Last Guardian talks about the humans, I guess.
Yeah, Medivh is The Last Guardian. Yeah.
So this is when we get into the box office. So the film apparently needed $450 million to break even. And cost the studio $40 to $50 million total.
So the budget was $160
million, which, by the way, they flubbed that. Like, that's always like.
So where's this $300 million coming?
Probably marketing. They probably spent $150 million on marketing and stuff like that, especially for a big blockbuster like this. Unfortunately, that's not uncommon, especially for something like this. So yeah, I think that's the unfortunate reason why we haven't seen a new one since. So this is not a fun fact, sadly. It's just a fact. Sometimes these facts make their way in. Production was sadly pretty tough for director Duncan Jones in a few personal ways. His wife was diagnosed with breast cancer at the beginning of production when he first found out he was going to start the movie. Luckily, she did survive and everything's fine there. But unfortunately, his father then passed away in 2016 from cancer, right as the movie was going to release. He was quoted as saying, "This journey began and ended with cancer." And, it's sad. He seems to have gotten through it, and luckily his wife's fine, so...
Funny enough, I was still working at Regal when Warcraft came out, and I was actually in the parking lot ready to go to work when I found out David Bowie died.
Really?
Funny. Yeah, I remember, like, parking my car, and then, like, MMR was like, "Oh, yeah, David Bowie died," like, in the morning. Like, I was like, yeah.
Yeah, he wasn't that old either, right?
No,
he was like 50s, 60s?
I would say 60s at that point.
Yeah, that's crazy. So we mentioned this earlier, but the blue-horned humanoids that Gul'dan uses to sacrifice at the beginning of the movie, are called Draenei. Their lore in the cinematic universe of Warcraft is unclear, but in the Warcraft games, they are a race of exiled people who are not native to the orcs' homeworlds, who worship a celestial being known as Naru.
Yep.
Thank you for confirming.
Yep.
So Duncan Jones found the original script he was given for this very one-sided. The humans were the good guys, the orcs were the bad guys.
Yeah,
he wanted to
not
give
the
it.
Truth, for
yeah,
sure.
he wanted to give each side their narrative due, with heavy edits being made to the script. I
think it's pretty clear you watch the movie that like from the beginning. I think starting with the orcs is a good move.
I think so too.
Like these are our main orc characters, and here's Gul'dan, like clearly like all warped and twisted by the Fel, and here's the normal Durtan orc and Draka. Like they have a family. They kind of make you
humanize them a bit for sure.
Yeah, and sympathize. It's like, hey, they're a different race, and like they're kind of monstrous looking, but they are very normal. Like, yeah, Draka and Durotan's like first scene is like very human.
Yeah, they're family just trying to survive.
And they're joking around with each other.
Yeah,
on the cusp of going to fucking war.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's very well done. So the film was initially going to release in 2015, but its premiere was pushed to avoid what movie, Gooch, do you think? In 2015. It's a big one. Major, even, I would say.
Can I get a hint?
Sure.
I'm going to try to guess. The Force Awakens.
It is The Force Awakens, yes.
Yeah.
They pushed it back a year to be like, which is a good idea, because that movie just destroyed the box office.
Yeah,
I saw that movie.
That was probably a very good move.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I think I saw that movie, 3 times in the theater.
I saw it twice in theaters.
Yeah, insane. Gooch, I'm going to see if you know this man. I want to see how true this is. Recognized by his ponytail and iconic axe, Gromish Hellscream. Gromash, my apologies.
Yeah.
Makes a few appearances during the film. While he doesn't speak or involve himself in the story, his presence is still a subtle nod to the diehard fans of the franchise. Is that true, Gooch? Is it a subtle nod to the diehard fans of the franchise?
Yeah. Grom Hellscream is a big character in Warcraft 3, and he is there, but he's not.
He's not really there. Yeah.
Again, there's a lot of orc characters that.
They're just in the
there's
background.
Another one like Kilrock Deadeye. Like it's just hard to give everyone like their due, even though they are like storied Warcraft characters. They just don't have the time. And again, they're there. It doesn't mean they necessarily have a big part in the first, the first Orcish invasion of Azeroth.
So this film went through. This is kind of a fun fact because I was curious what like the normal post-production time is for a movie. This had 20 months of post-production.
Wow.
Usually, I was seeing online.
I mean, it's a lot of
like,
CGI.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
It's like usually 6 months to a year post-production for a movie. But yeah, with a movie like this that involves so much CG, and they were doing a lot of crazy technical stuff at the time, it took some time. So yeah, 20 months. For the last one here, I thought this one was actually interesting. I didn't realize this even happened, and I didn't realize it was part of the movie. A live-action concept trailer was shown at Comic-Con by Blizzard before the film was even in production. It shows an orc and a human readying for battle.
Yeah, so that scene, we kind of see it.
That's the scene at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah. It is. That's like an homage to the beginning of Warcraft 3. There's like it's an orc and a human fighting, and then like the hordes come in, like the armies come in and meet them. Yeah, that was like I think again that is a very classic Warcraft shot that I totally forgot about. Like as we were talking, but yeah, I was like, oh, that's a Warcraft 3 homage. And
iconic.
Yeah.
But that does it, Gooch. That's all our fun facts and our review.
I'm surprised you like this. I had a funny feeling we were gonna come on and like on
I was
Discord,
like, this was boring. I hated it.
You were not into it. I'm like, oh god, like which is funny because like I thought it was gonna be not that we weren't that way about Doom, but Yeah, I was like, oh, he's not gonna like this, and I'm surprised.
No, I liked it more. I will again at the beginning. I was a little like
the
ooh.
CGI. I was like, I don't know, man. I think the CGI is pretty damn good.
But
the
then-
backgrounds can and like the juxtaposition there can be a bit weird. But
It got so much better as the movie went on. There was just like a few parts at the beginning that really jarred me, and I felt like I settled in.
do you have any interest in playing the game? I know that is a huge kind of like ask, considering I know like what World of Warcraft is. But like, does it interest you in maybe like playing Warcraft 1, the remaster, or Warcraft 3 or something like that?
I don't know. Maybe I'd try it. Like I've tried Fallout 1, Gooch. I've tried a few games just to, I'll pop them on, and I maybe
Honestly,
should give them more of the time of the
Warcraft
day.
is kind of not far off.
That's what I was
Fallout
thinking.
1.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe one day if I wanted to, go back and experience it and see what it's all about, I wouldn't put it past me. But I don't know. The only MMO or I guess that's a tactical RPG or what's the first one again?
Warcraft is an RTS.
RTS, gotcha.
Yeah.
I mean, I've played like the Old Republic. Like that's probably the closest thing I've come to World of Warcraft.
You played Guild Wars for a hot minute.
I honestly, my computer just couldn't support it. Like that was the main reason I didn't play.
I tried to get everyone I know
Yeah.
into that game.
I think I would have tried to continue much more with that if I could have like played it well on my computer.
Yeah.
It just couldn't handle it at the time. I had some rinky-dink laptop, Acer or something like that.
Yeah. It ran Minecraft though.
It did run Minecraft. Yeah. And now I got my Dell. I've had that. It's funny. I didn't realize I've had my computer from like a year and a half now, and it's still going strong. I did buy Red Dead on Steam because it was $15, and I'm like, maybe one day I'll like the PC version, and because it can run 60 frames.
Red Dead 1.
Sorry, Red Dead 2.
I was going to say,
meant to say Red Dead 2.
1 isn't on PC.
Yeah. So I was trying to mess around with that though, but I still actually don't even think my computer can really handle that at like really good stuff.
That's like a game that, like, I don't know. I think I don't feel like you hear a lot of people playing Red Dead 2 on PC.
For sure. And I mean, I know a lot of their...
Like, a lot of Rockstar games in general.
Well, their PC ports are always super late, too. They rarely, if ever, release a PC port the day of. I mean, it took like years for Grand Theft Auto to finally get on there, I think. And, I mean, I think Red Dead was a much closer jump, and I think GTA 6 will be an even closer one. But yeah, it's weird how that works.
So, we have one more.
We do.
A movie that came out in the same year, which I don't think we've ever done.
I didn't realize that either.
This is the first time we've ever done a rewind review with two movies in the same year.
Right.
Assassin's Creed. We're ending on probably, I would say, a movie that Trio and I are both, well, I guess me is debatable at this point, but huge fans of, that we know so much about.
The series, itself. I wouldn't say I'm a fan of the movie, sadly.
I haven't seen it since I saw it in theaters, so just like Warcraft.
I just remember being incredibly bored, unfortunately. So I'm just, and it's funny. This was, I will give Assassin's Creed credit. I feel like one of the first video game movies that like
is in canon.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's like what Fallout is doing now with its season. Like, I think that's cool. So I'm excited to talk about that. It's funny. As soon as I finished Warcraft, it was the next recommendation for me. Was Assassin's Creed on
Actually, I
on
think it
Amazon
was for me
Prime.
too.
Yeah.
I think. Oh, you watched it on Prime?
I did. Yeah.
Okay. I think,
oh no, it was on Max. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it was like the both on Max.
Yeah, for sure.
But guys, thank you for watching. You can usually check our podcast out live at twitch.tv/Delco Network, but you can find any of our podcasts where podcasts are available: Spotify, Apple Podcasts. I was gonna say Apple Music.
Sorry.
Which I guess is the same thing.
Yeah.
Any podcast service, just please search Delco Network on it and you'll find us. And you can also find us at youtube.com/Delco Network, anywhere with an @ at Delco Nerds, on any social media with an @ like I just said, facebook.com/Delco Network. We're on most of the social media forums. So go follow us, keep up with what we are doing. We have a Discord channel, which you can join in the description of every single podcast we post. We have a lot of good times in there. Usually we do talk about the rewind reviews and when to review them and when we're watching them. I usually try to do it anyway.
Absolutely.
But yeah, all sorts of shit is talked about in there. So we hope you can join our little community. You can find all of this information on our website, delconerdnetwork.com, and you can email us at you can email us at delconerds@gmail.com. But for Trio, my name is Anthony Ragucci. Thanks for watching. Stay nerdy, and we'll see you next time.
Take it easy, folks.
Right.